All right, hello everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Krista Seiden. I'm gonna do a very quick top 3 tips that I have for you for GA4 so you can help maximize your use. And then we're actually gonna do an AMA. I'm gonna invite my friend Rick Dronkers up to the stage to join me for that. Okay, so quick status check. Who here is already using Google Analytics 4? Great. Who's not? Let me put it that way. Okay, hopefully you start soon because time's ticking. All right, if you're not, or if you just want to know how it compares to Universal Analytics, I do have a little side-by-side comparison guide. If you want, it's available at that URL. It breaks down how Universal Analytics features compares to Google Analytics 4 features so that you can kind of know what is what if you want a helpful view. All right, sorry, did everybody get their pictures? Okay, great. Okay, 3 tips to maximize your use of GA4. I'm gonna go through these really quick so we have lots of time for AMA. The first one is know the new reporting. So real time, this has changed. It looks different. It is also the past 30 minutes as opposed to Universal Analytics, which is just the past 5 minutes. One really cool thing here that I just wanted to point out is in this event count by event name widget, if you click into any of the event names, it will show you the event parameters associated. If you click into the parameter name, it will show you the value. Great way to debug. In this case, I'm debugging a transaction, trying to figure out if it's actually coming in the way I wanted it to. It's a really nice little value add, I think, in GA4. Pages and screens report. In Universal Analytics, this was organized by page URL or page path. In GA4 out of the box, it's page title. You can actually click the little arrow, change it to page path and query screen if you want something a little bit more familiar. Or you can use the customization features to actually get this with page path if you prefer. I'll show you that in a sec. Acquisition reports. Main point here, know what you're looking at. There are 2 types of acquisition reports in GA4. You have traffic acquisition, which is like sessions, closest to you're gonna get to what you have in UA. And you also have user acquisition, which is the first session, campaign, source, et cetera, that the user came to, or the user or the cookie came to your website on. So those reports might look a little bit different. Just know what you're looking at. All right, tip 2, customize the UI for your users. This is probably my favorite thing. Actually, I have a lot of favorite things about GA4, but this is one of my favorite things about GA4. Never before have we been able to customize the UI of Universal Analytics. All right, quick overview, report customization. This is my blog, GA4 container or property. My blog it's a blog. There's no revenue, it's not an e-commerce store, but I have in my main report here a total revenue column. I don't need this. I can get rid of it. I can click up to that little edit button in the upper right-hand corner of the screen and go ahead and look at my metrics. And in this case, I have revenue. I can just X that out. It's now gonna be gone from my report. I can save it as a new report and we're good to go. I now have a new report without it. Also, for the love of God, please, please, please get rid of the scatter plots in your visualizations. Just to go back, you saw, well, we have 2 graphs here. I think I had changed it from scatter plot to a bar chart. You can change which type you want. I like to just have maybe a line chart or something like that. You can hit the little eyeball to hide them or change the visual that you're looking at. So you can have something that is a little bit more familiar looking to you. The other thing you can use this for is to create that coveted landing page report that we don't have yet natively in GA4. You can create it with report customizations. I have a Twitter thread recently that shows you how to do this step by step, so go check that out. Finally, we have our report library. This is where all your customizations live. So you can come here, customize to your heart's desire, organize them into collections. So you can now, does this thing have a pointer? Nope. All right. You can now actually change your left-hand nav. You've never been able to do that before in Universal Analytics. This is really, really exciting for all the Adobe Analytics users in the room. You're like, man, I could do these customizations for like 15 years now, but GA is finally catching up. So you can see here, I have Krista's Faves, and those are all my favorite reports that I have organized in one spot, so I can just quickly go to my favorite reports. All right, last tip. Use UI-based tools to improve your data. Just one I'm gonna show you here. There's these new features in GA4 about creating and modifying your events. So who here has ever seen something like this in your data? 2 different versions of the same event. Yeah, the bane of every analyst's existence, right? This is like, oh, my data is not clean. My developer implemented 2 different events. No worries. You can actually fix this in GA4 right in the UI with a couple of clicks. So we go over to our events report, or our events table. We see our 2 events. We hit that modify event button. This brings up this configuration screen. Similar flow for the create event screen, but for modify, you can see here, I'm gonna go event name equals start now. When you see that, rename it to event name is start underscore now. Going forward, all of that is now gonna be under the same event, if that was your question. It's not retroactive to your previous event data. And it doesn't show up in BigQuery like that? I actually haven't checked that. Good to know. I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. Oh, no. No, it is not. Sorry. Yes. So you said that it's not retroactive? Not retroactive. So you can't merge? You can't merge previous data. You can fix it going forward. Yep. All right, so for those 3 people here that haven't started with GA4, it is time to get started. It is go time. Universal Analytics is going away. It finally has a deprecation date of July 1st, 2023. If you're a 360 customer, October 1st, 2023, so do not delay. If you are interested in learning courses, this is not a hard sell, I swear. This is a take it or leave it. I do offer GA4 courses. My latest course is actually a technical implementation course with Rick. It is excellent. I have a very special deal just for MeasureCamp here in the Netherlands for $250 off if you use that code. All right, that's it. Let's actually open this up to Q&A now. So Rick maybe wants to come up and join me on stage, and we will take your questions.
Throwing me under the bus. We'll start. Wouter, all in the back.
So thank you for the personalizations of settings in quality. I work at an agency. I would like to combine my personalizations, my explorations, and them in a whole bunch of different projects. Is that possible? How do I do it?
So I guess the answer is yes and no. I think for having them in other properties, you can, well, okay, so then the answer is no. There's no sharing template. I was thinking for different users. You can share an exploration with other users in the property. You might be familiar that when you do that, it is static. You can't even change the date. And so they have to make a copy of it and share it. But no, you cannot share between properties, sorry. Hopefully we'll get like a more templatized thing soon, like we have in Universal Analytics to share reports though.
I'm thinking, does the API already provide like the management API, the account API? Not those kind of features. There would be a nice place to add it, maybe.
One thing though actually is just to get your explorations out, you might have seen they just released the funnels API. That's pretty exciting. That's actually the first time you can get funnel data from Explore out of GA4 that has a lot of like processing on it that you can't right now, or you can previously recreate in something like Data Studio, right? So now you can. There's not a native connector for that to Data Studio yet, but you can get it out into like a Google spreadsheet and then visualize Data Studio on top of that. So that's one way to get it out. And then you could, maybe change the property ID and the visualization. I don't know. You'll have to work with it.
I have a question about custom audiences.
Can you speak up just?
I have a question about custom audiences.
Yes.
We were working with it, but we realized that the events that we tagged, they all had to have an underscore in order to work with custom audiences, but we didn't run into this problem anymore. So we had an event like click button, and it had like a click button with like a space. We had to retag it into click underscore button in order to even get it into custom audiences. So now we have the problem that we tag everything, but then we have to retag it with an underscore, so we have 2 data streams. This is like, I just wanted to
Yeah. Is this a feature or a bug? I don't know. I don't know if this is working as intended. I wasn't aware that you had to use an underscore in event names.
It is recommended to do it snake case, so to use the underscore, but it's specifically only for the custom audience feature. That might have something to do with, because it also can integrate with the advertising suite. So there might be something that it's a prerequisite from that end of the suite. But I haven't tested it. Like, I try to do it all with underscores, so I haven't tried sending events with spaces. So I haven't tested it and seen it happen, yeah. Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to find the information if UTM tags are still starting a new session in GA4.
They are not. So UTM tags are different in GA4, and how that relates to your session attribution is essentially what you're asking. In GA4, UTMs do not restart a new session when you change UTMs. So your session numbers may look different depending on how prevalent that case was in Universal Analytics. One other thing about the session that is different is that it doesn't have a midnight cutoff time period. So again, another reason why your session counts may look different between the two, but no, UTMs do not affect it that way, which is not a reason that you should use UTMs on your own owned properties though. Yeah.
I work in digital agency and currently rely on the BigQuery protocol to stuff and Azure packages that web groups can send in data based on the TI quality, but the BigQuery protocol is still beta with GA4. Anything to say about the status of that?
Is it in beta or alpha? It's still alpha, right?
I think it's I want to say it's officially in beta.
I think it's in beta. If it's in beta, then Google. If it's in beta, Google, all Google products are in beta, so that's fine. But I think it's still in alpha, so they actually mentioned that they might change how it works. There's a lot of pressure on it, I think. So I suspect that they're working on getting it right soon, because a lot of, especially the more serious customers, need the measurement protocol to do stuff like what you just said.
Yeah.
I would definitely expect that there's a lot of people working on it, and we won't have to wait super long. But that's the thing.
I'll second that. I know that there's a bunch of people working on it. But yeah.
Because it's a service around like.
Yeah, but then, so Martijn said you could use server-side tag manager to get the data in, which is true. But then if you still use the measurement protocol, if Google decides to change the parameters in the measurement protocol, then your setup will still fail. So it's waiting for Google to give the green light, like, hey, this is what you can use, before you start building a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and a question about product-based distribution or item-based distribution.
Yeah.
In UA, you had to add all the list information up until the antiquary event. I tried that for GA4 as well, but it didn't work.
Nope.
Is there any
Nope. No. So that's a big problem, right? So with the enhanced e-commerce in GA3 and now just, I think, e-commerce in GA4, you have all the events, right? From an impression of a product to the product view and then all the way through the cart and the funnel. And then if you would show like a promotion at the first event, like a view of a banner or something, and you put that as a product promotion in enhanced e-commerce, then it would attribute it downstream basically towards the conversion. So if you would look at that conversion, you would see like, hey, this person clicked that original promotion banner. And it was a great feature because you only had to implement the tracking part once, only on the impression of the banner, and then it did the magic of attribution for you. Now, first of all, that magic of attribution, if people click multiple banners, like how did it work, right? So you're a bit stuck in, like it was rigid and it was what it was, but it worked. Now it doesn't work. I hope that they will enable that feature, but right now you have to add that information yourself to those steps, right? So if you want to add the promotion that the user has seen, you have to add it to all steps downstream of that first click. So that's a big hassle from an implementation point of view.
I think you can only attribute one list, right?
Yeah. Well, there might be multiple slots for list. I haven't tested that, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you can like attribute multiple, because it is structured in a way that it will allow for multiple, like for 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm not sure if it actually picks up the data, I mean, if it shows up in the interface. But then it would show up in BigQuery, right, if you do it like that. So, yeah. But right now, you're stuck with manually adding it to all the steps. I do think that this is a complaint that Google is getting. So maybe they will, decide working on it. But the total data model is different. So I do get it. I do get that it's a hard feature for them to build. Like it's not an easy thing that they can just flip on, right? It's not. It's quite complicated, the logic.
We're going to
You were talking about the attribution. So for GA4, standard attribution is data-driven attribution, right? But just going through say good things about the types of features. What's your thoughts on?
You can change it. If you don't test it, you can change it.
What's your thoughts about it? Is it definitely the way to move forward? Or?
I mean, DDA in GA has always been a black box. In GA4, I think it operates better than in UA. In UA, it was based on the last 4 touch points that Google could observe. In GA4, I believe it's the last 50, and I think they're even trying to up that, although with the life of a cookie, who knows if you're going to get more than 50 touch points. But it's their modeling, right? So you have to trust that that is going to be good. I don't think that the modeling itself is modeled in a way that it's greedy in terms of applying more to Google weighted. I think it tries to be fair, and it's also modeled off of your own data. So I think it's good, but you can test it out, right? You can look at the model comparison tool, understand the differences, and you have to then decide for you if it makes sense for your business or not. So that's the nice thing about having the model comparison tool, is that you can compare and make that judgment call yourself, and then in settings you can change which attribution model you want to apply to your data, which is retroactive, which is really nice. Neil.
So, open question. How mature do you think GA4's product is, and how optimistic do you think the sunset deadline?
Yes.
I don't work for Google anymore, but I would say I am very certain that that date is not moving. So I would not, there are a lot of people out there speculating that, oh, they're going to delay it, they're going to delay it, they're going to delay it. I don't see that happening. So I can't be any more firm than that, but don't expect that to move. In terms of product maturity, I mean, we all know that there's still missing features, right? Google's not going for feature comparison, though, between UA and GA4. They're going for use case comparison. So they want you to be able to do the same kind of things. That doesn't mean that they're going to bring every feature from UA to GA4. I think there are definitely some missing pieces, such as item scope dimensions, a bunch of stuff with e-commerce, as we've discussed, custom channel groupings, a number of things. I think they have a long roadmap that are going to address many of those things. And I also think that the pace of innovation with GA4, if you look over the last 6 months, has actually increased quite a bit. So I think over the next 6 months, we're going to see a lot. Certainly, I think we're going to see most of what we need in GA4 before we get to that July 1st, 2023 deadline.
I think you guys also have to use it more so they get more data to verify their features.
That's fine.
We're actually working with that. So right, towards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a question back here. Yes.
So previously in your analytics you had the option to use filters to exclude IP addresses or hostings or whatever.
As far as I'm aware, you can only
Exclude IP addresses,
how would you go about
exclude hostnames or other type of events right now in GA4.
Great question. Do you have a solution? GTM or deal with it. So that's a great question. Technically, if you hover over, there's a little like helper text in that modification flow. It says that if you leave the new name empty, it will drop the event. According to the PM who worked on this feature and built it, my inside sources have told me that hasn't fully been realized yet. However, I actually have a client doing this right now, and they see it working. So I think maybe test it out. I can't guarantee that it works as intended yet, though.
Yeah, when you do something like that, I would really double test, like if it does impact maybe attribution flows and stuff like that. Like if the event is dropped, doesn't mean that the other logic in the stream of that event is also intact.
So in BigQuery.
Yeah, and I think when you're doing that, like the BigQuery export is, in my opinion, a really valuable part of GA4, maybe the most valuable. And then, you know, if you, like all the edits you make are going to impact that BigQuery part as well. So I would, definitely try to keep that as clean and intact and big as possible, so you can filter down in BigQuery later, because that data set is probably the most robust for you to work with anyhow.
Yep. Yes.
Just another question, comments.
Annotations, they don't exist in GA4 yet, but I know a lot of people are complaining about this, so keep complaining. Tell Google that you want those.
You used the tool, right? There was somebody using a tool in
There was, somebody mentioned the tool, GA4annotations.com.
Yeah, there is some third-party tool, but I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah, spreadsheets, Data Studio. Yeah. Question here?
Yeah, so there's a lot of data, and there's a lot of stuff need to be tested. I'm looking for like what is the correct approach of testing these features without like having to bring it to a customer. So we're gonna try this, but that's gonna take 3 months, and then we're gonna see, and then afterwards like a hard sell.
Yeah.
So is there an approach that you find like useful to still test all these stuff with?
Starting yesterday. No, I mean you gotta test this stuff out on your own properties, right? Before you recommend things to a client, like I always recommend testing it out on your own stuff. Yeah, it's gonna take time. Yes, the tool is still changing. I think it's kind of a learning process. I have a client, for example, I've been working with for 2 years on migration, and it's really more just kind of a strategy consulting gig where I meet with them and we talk about some of the things that they're thinking about. So in that 2-year period, since like it was app plus web, there's been a lot of things that have changed. Thankfully, they have a big appetite for being early and doing that. But I think clients right now also need to understand that this tool is still evolving, and that there will be changes. There's going to be things that you do now that in 6 months from now, when there's actually a feature released for it, you might need to go back and change. So I would be open and honest with your clients about that ahead of time as well. I don't know if you have any other.
Yeah, so you're on the agency side? Yeah, I would set up some sandbox environment where you can just play around with data layer events and just, keep on experimenting, because things are also going to change over the next couple of months. I'm 100% sure of that. Like features will change, there will be bugs, there will be things you have to test. So, having that environment where you're not afraid to break things and where you can just, go all in, I think that's a must-have, because it's really hard to promise something to a client right now. I get your struggle, because you're like, in theory, I understand how I should implement this, but I've never done it, so I'm not sure what's going to break when I do it. That's the thing we're going to have to bridge, but that's also maybe the value of you as an agency, right? Make your client realize that, and then that's where you bring the value by testing it all and figuring it out, and if it breaks, fixing it as soon as possible, I guess, yeah.
Makes me hesitant to say, okay, you have to do that measurement project right now, and why not delay a little bit?
Yeah.
Once it clears out, and it becomes clear what to do.
I mean, I think that's fair. On the other hand, what about the historical data, right? So a lot of businesses want to have at least a year of historical data so they can do year-over-year comparisons in GA4. So as the in-house practitioner, as the company, even if things are going to change, personally, I would want to have it installed as soon as possible, knowing that the data may change a little bit, but at least I have that historical data. So
that's our part of the thinking that we do these things.
Yeah.
All more complex stuff.
Yeah. Get the page view in, get the transaction in, and then start slowly building out the rest, and then that's probably the best approach.
Yes. So we've manual cross-domain tracking is working with several data streams.
Manual as in you do it in DTM or in the code yourself?
Yeah.
As opposed to using the UI?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of experimentation.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of experimentation with it right now. And I think there's also a lot of problems when you have universal analytics and GA4 on the same properties, which is likely to happen, right? Because you're migrating.
keep on testing.
Yeah. I don't have a definitive answer. I saw Simo and Charles Farina have a discussion about this, so it's probably nobody knows except them. But yeah,
Oh, we also had a good discussion about it.
5 more minutes.
Okay, thanks for your time. Yep.
How do you handle campaign session attribution in BigQuery?
You have to model for it, right? So you first have to model the GA4 data. There's a great course by our Finnish friend for that. Simo Ava has a great course with a Dutch partner. Not sure if he's here. About turning the GA4 data in BigQuery into like a usable model, and that will also allow you to do session attribution. And then what type of attribution logic you want to build? Yeah, that's if you want to build Markov models. I think you had a great presentation a couple of years ago about custom attribution, right? On MeasureCamp. So then it becomes build your own, right? To build your own options.
You can try supervised tricks.
Yeah.
Sort of changes how the data is in BigQuery.
Yeah, so that basically takes the raw data and takes it already into a predefined form that's easier to use for session attribution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Report side are his favorites.
I mean, that was an example. Certainly the landing page report. I personally prefer looking at page path rather than page name. So I have that in there that I built custom traffic acquisition. So I still kind of like that session view of my acquisition data. E-commerce reports. I think every business should take advantage of the ability to customize reports. You can use that for different teams. Your product team needs different reports than your marketing team. One of the biggest complaints about GA4 is that there are no views, right? I think the customization features are going to be our answer to that. I think they're still building things to add into there that's going to make it even more useful, but it's a great way to build specific reports or organize certain reports for different teams so that they don't have to wade through everything they know to go to the marketing team section of their navigation for their specific reports.
Can I ask you guys a question before we have to cut it off? So who here is confident that they'll have GA4, that you're going to be ready when the migration has to happen, right? So you have it set up, you'll be ready. Okay, and who here is totally not confident, like doomsday? Okay. Somebody has to do it, right?
Thanks for being honest.
And then
More of you.
All the rest that I'm a business, so
the rest is in between, or well, Yeah. Okay. So we should make it, right? By a show of hands, we should make it. Any last question?
Yeah.
We have 2.
Let's go there.
I was mentioning about privacy and GDPR. Are there any chance to have an option to select the data on GA? Like we can select the query to store it in Europe, but what about GA?
Yeah, there's no option to store it in Europe. Google has released an option recently, like 2-3 weeks ago, where they say that whenever the request is from a European IP address, the data will be processed on a European server, and then we will be stripped of the IP address and some metadata and all, some stuff, and then stored in the US. I don't think, though, it solves the GDPR issues, because the main issue behind all the GDPR issues is that Google is a American company subject to FISA. So even if they would store it on a European server, that whole complaint would still exist. So I think it's good that they made this step, but the argument against them is a different argument. So I think that's something that will take some time before we figure out what the solution will be for that. Maybe you build your own obfuscation technology in between, right? That's fully owned by you before sending the data along to Google. But yeah, if you're building that, maybe you would send it somewhere else instead of to Google. So yeah, we'll have to figure out where we end on that.
I think we have one last question over here, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, speak up.
Both.
Moving the end date for the first time.
I mean, that's all speculation. I can't tell you what I know there. But I think, you can look at Universal and say, they don't really have much for GDPR compliance with Universal, right? GA4 is built in a safe, privacy-conscious way, and they're continually releasing more things there. So I think if you look at it from that perspective, migrating sooner is better.
And maintaining two tools for them on that respect is really hard, of course. So yeah, that would make sense that at least it plays a role for them. But yeah.
All right, we might still have a time for another question. Martine's like, any last questions?
Maybe a comment?
Yeah.
I think it's bigger issue than just GA because it's all the SaaS vendors, American ones, and it's
Totally.
Atlantic data transfer agreement.
Which hopefully we're getting a new version of that soon. That'll help. But yeah, it's definitely bigger than just GA. GA just gets a bad rap in it because it's a big tool that the media can latch onto.
I choose to believe the positive outcome. We will be saved somehow.
I like it. All right, well, thank you all for coming. Thanks for the questions. Hey everyone, I'm Krista Seiden with KS Digital, and I'm here today to tell you about a brand new course that we're offering covering technical implementation of Google Analytics 4. And I am so excited that Rick Dronkers from Data to Value will be joining us for this course to help teach you all about the ins and outs of implementing Google Analytics 4 at a deep, deep level. Rick, so happy that you're joining me for this course.
Thanks, Krista. Super excited to be doing this together. You already have some amazing courses explaining to people how to get the most value out of Google Analytics 4. And now we're going to focus on how to get the most valuable data into Google Analytics 4. We will walk you through the basics of web technology that you'll need for debugging your digital analytics setup. We'll walk you through the debugging of your implementation using the Chrome developer tools and several Chrome extensions. We'll also walk through setting up Google Analytics 4 via Tag Manager, starting out with the easy parts and then moving all the way through to e-commerce and the customization parts. We'll teach you how to implement consent management platforms with your GA4 and GTM setup and much more. Additionally, for the first 6 months of the course, we'll be hosting double the amount of office hours to help everybody migrate to Google Analytics 4. So that's it. Let's dive in.